Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture. Today we have a compact, but I hope consequential, investigation into Toy Story 5, a 2026 American animated adventure comedy drama from Pixar for Walt Disney Pictures. I am Alexei, and with me is Priyanka, who will keep us honest by asking the questions the rest of us were afraid to voice.
Hi. I guess we can start by thinking about what exactly Toy Story 5 is doing. Not just as a sequel, but as a statement about play in a world full of screens.
To frame our discussion, Toy Story 5 is set 2 years after the events of Toy Story 4, and it recenters the narrative on Jessie while reintroducing Woody and Buzz to address a new rival for a child's attention, namely a frog-themed tablet named LilyPad, voiced by Greta Lee. Marketing summarized the premise with unusual economy. Toy meets tech. Critically, the film earned positive notices for animation, performances, humor, and themes. And for the first time in the mainline series, it carries a PG rating for some thematic elements and rude humor. We observed that the rating signals a willingness to engage directly with contemporary childhood pressures.
I'm curious about the technology side. Can we say a bit about the tools? Like, what changed under the hood that might matter for what we see on screen?
It's important to understand the pipeline innovations. Pixar deployed RenderMan XPU on a feature for the first time, a renderer that, in simpler terms, lets CPUs and GPUs work concurrently for significantly faster, interactive full-frame rendering, with artists reporting up to 9-fold speedups in look development. This pairs with an expansion of the Luna extension in the Presto system, so lighting adjustments, such as sun position, propagate instantly across multiple shots, reducing continuity errors and encouraging more cohesive visual decisions. On the character side, an invertible rigging system allowed intuitive switching between inverse and forward kinematics on every control, making precise hand, hoof, and foot contact solutions possible without bespoke controls. That rigging advance supports, among others, the horse Daffodil, built and simulated over more than a year, with animators studying a live horse to capture gait and weight. We also note a new hair system tuned for tightly curled hair, important for Blaise Manoukian, a young girl in the film, developed in consultation with Black colleagues to ensure authentic behavior across lighting and humidity contexts. Finally, visual effects leadership stated that no artificial intelligence tools were used in production. Pixar experimented but found results below its quality threshold. In this context, the tools serve artists, not the other way around.
That makes sense. Building on that, why are the stakes high for this topic? Like, beyond filmcraft, why should we care about a toy versus a tablet?
Because the film compresses a live societal question into 90-plus minutes. How do screens reshape the cognitive and social texture of childhood? The tablet Lily aims to optimize social outcomes, yet the film shows how optimization without context can intensify isolation and peer pressure. Jessie's arc is therefore a question of relevance, not the end of imagination, but its migration into mixed analog-digital spaces. The PG rating quietly acknowledges the friction families feel, a permission slip, if you will, for parents and children to debrief afterward.
And the story kind of refuses to make tech the villain, right? It turns Lily into an ally by the end. That feels, healthier than a lecture on screen time.
Precisely. The toys exploit Lily's speech recognition weakness to surface a photo that reopens dialogue between children. Human connection subverting a machine's narrow logic without smashing the machine. It is a subtle but meaningful reframing.
So yeah, moving on. Could we lay out the basic facts? The who, when, and how much?
Of course. Budget, approximately $250 million, placing it among the most expensive animated films. Direction and script. Andrew Stanton directed, conceived the story, and co-wrote with Kenna Harris, who also served as co-director. A noteworthy first turn for Stanton directing a mainline Toy Story entry after co-writing the prior four. Timeline. Disney's Bob Iger confirmed development in February 2023. Pete Docter affirmed Woody's return in June 2023. Stanton's role solidified in 2024. The teaser released in November 2025, with 142 million views in 24 hours. The world premiere at the Dolby Theatre occurred in June 2026, and the U.S. theatrical release followed in June 2026. Cast. Returning voices include Tom Hanks as Woody, Tim Allen as Buzz Lightyear, and Joan Cusack as Jessie, with Annie Potts, Keanu Reeves, Bonnie Hunt, Kristen Schaal, Tony Hale, Wallace Shawn, and others reprising. Additions include Greta Lee as Lilypad, Conan O'Brien as Smarty Pants, Shelby Rabara as Snappy, Michael Michelle Harris as Blaze, and Craig Robinson as Atlas. Tim Allen also performs the multi-Buzz gag. A cohort of high-tech Buzz Lightyears stuck in demo mode, later dispersed to different children at a school playground. Music. Randy Newman returns for his 10th Pixar score. Taylor Swift contributes the original song I Knew It, I Knew You with Jack Antonoff. The single reached #1 on the Billboard Global 200, the first such #1 for Disney and Pixar, and Swift's 7th on that chart.
And reception. I saw an A from CinemaScore, but box office numbers looked, confusing in some reports.
Indeed. Critically, Rotten Tomatoes registered approximately 93% approval on 212 reviews, with a 7.8 out of 10 average. Metacritic aggregated to 73 out of 100 on 50 critics. Audiences graded it A via CinemaScore. Box office reporting included a notable inconsistency. One source cited $71 million domestic on opening day, including $17.5 million in previews, while another snapshot listed $71 million total domestic and $129.3 million worldwide as of an unspecified time. The two figures cannot be simultaneously accurate in the same window. Analysts flagged this until reconciled tallies emerged. We state the discrepancy rather than resolve it without authoritative updates. Speaking of motivations, a brief personal note. As someone who spends time with chess problems and, on good days, Tchaikovsky, I am perpetually interested in how constraint sharpens imagination. The film's question, whether a screen is a constraint or an eraser, connects to that curiosity. In many cases, tools that limit can paradoxically liberate. Let's proceed to the next point. 3 large questions to organize our thinking. First, a historical question. How has the Toy Story franchise evolved? Second, a counterfactual. What if Pixar had embraced AI in production? Third, an open question. How might technology continue to shape future Toy Story narratives? Big question 1, history and evolution. The 1995 original, directed in the Lasseter era, established toys with interiority and the central metaphysic that a toy's telos is play. Buzz's awakening from delusion to identity formed the scaffold. Toy Story 2 deepened the ontology, contemplating collection versus play, and from a certain angle, immortality via display. Toy Story 3 pivoted to community and transition, daycare as a carceral space, and crucially, the handoff to Bonnie, reframing ownership as stewardship. Toy Story 4 risked a thematic fracture by allowing Woody to choose purpose beyond a single child, with Bo Peep as an autonomous agent in a wider ecology of abandoned toys. Toy Story 5 then synthesizes these threads. It preserves Woody's growth by letting him and Bo continue helping lost toys, while repositioning Jessie as the emotional center, confronting the digitization of attention. Leadership shifted. John Lasseter's departure in late 2018 ushered in Pete Docter's stewardship, and Andrew Stanton, a longtime co-writer of the series, took the directorial helm with Kenna Harris as co-director. The result reads as continuity in voice, but a pivot in emphasis.
Can we maybe now look at directors specifically? Does changing directors risk losing the tone, or does it, refresh it? I often think audiences can tell, even if they cannot say why.
This logically leads us to authorship versus institution. In this case, several stabilizers mitigate drift. Randy Newman's musical language functions as connective tissue. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen anchor legacy cadences. And the writing brain trust retains deep memory of character dynamics. New hands bring fresh inflections. Stanton and Harris articulate technology not as a monolithic antagonist, but as a system with failure modes and repair strategies. Hence Lily's arc from optimizer to collaborator. The cameo economy is also carefully tuned. Crowd pleasers like Duke Kaboom and Forky appear without hijacking Jessie's leadership. In short, new direction provides thematic currency while legacy elements preserve tonal invariance. Moving forward, big question 2. Counterfactual. What if Pixar had leaned into AI-assisted production? Theoretically, one might deploy generative models for in-betweening, motion style transfer, texture synthesis, layout optimization, or automated denoising. The likely benefit is velocity. Faster iteration cycles might compress schedules further than even XPU's 9-fold interactive speedups. The cost, however, is distribution of authorship and consistency of micro-performance. Pixar's tradition depends on animator intent at the subframe level. Eyelid timing, breath cadence, micro-tilts of a head that communicate unspoken thought. Black box systems interpolate in style space, but they do not infer character consciousness, at least not to a standard this studio accepts. Pixar's stated choice not to use AI in Toy Story 5 therefore aligns process with theme. Technology as instrument, not oracle.
I'm curious about whether audiences would notice. Like, if AI made cloth or hair look a tiny bit different, is that perceptible? Or does it just feel, slightly off, without anyone knowing why?
Mathematically, we might call this the uncanny in the derivative rather than in the function. People sense the rate of change more than the value. With Blaze's tightly curled hair, the team tuned physicality and cultural authenticity through consultation and bespoke tools. A generalized AI prior might approximate curl, but miss humidity-dependent volume or the social meaning of styling in a given scene. Similarly, Daffodil's hoof contacts and weight shifts reflect measured locomotion and invertible rig responses. An automated solver might smooth where the story requires asymmetry. Would most viewers articulate the discrepancy? Perhaps not. But they would feel it, and the studio bet, correctly in my view, that feeling is the currency that buys trust.
So the trade-off is speed versus nuance, and Toy Story prefers nuance. That's kind of the franchise identity at this point.
To elaborate, speed still matters, hence XPU and Luna, but speed in service of better choices, not fewer artists. That distinction sounds philosophical. It is also operational. On to our next point, big question 3. How might technology continue to shape future Toy Story narratives? Several plausible vectors present themselves. First, the domestication of voice assistants and home robots. The franchise has already personified a tablet. A future story might interrogate agency and consent when a device is always listening. Second, augmented reality and mixed reality. Toys whose value is co-constructed with overlays could press the question of what counts as play and who curates the rules. Third, social dynamics at school age. The group chat motif here is a seed. Subsequent entries could explore digital reputation and resilience without ceding empathy to metrics. Fourth, accessibility technologies. There is narrative room to honor tools that enable inclusive play, turning the series' purpose thesis toward equity.
From a different angle, how do you balance nostalgia with innovation? Fans want Woody and Buzz, but also new ideas. Is there a framework for not breaking the spell?
We can infer a few heuristics from Toy Story 5. Keep legacy characters present as moral or tonal anchors. Witness Woody and Bo Peep returning briefly, then exiting to preserve Toy Story 4's growth. Let a new center of gravity emerge. Here, Jesse's leadership and vulnerability feel earned. Introduce technological foils that can convert to collaborators. Lily's arc avoids Luddite sermons. Calibrate nostalgia through precise cameos. Duke Kaboom, Forky, the aliens, as grace notes rather than digressions. And at the marketing layer, distill the thesis into an accessible logline. Toy meets tech did heavy lifting. For research, it is worth noting the effect of regional voice cameos. The Garden Gnome, voiced by Jerome Ramft in the primary version, Jordan North in the UK, DJ Fisher in Australia and New Zealand, on local engagement, and the cross-demographic pull of a chart-topping original song by Taylor Swift. Future work could study how such levers interact with long-term brand trust and opening weekend behavior.
Maybe that's something we can come back to later, like whether music that travels globally, as this single did, meaningfully changes family turnout patterns. For now, I think we covered the big arcs.
To summarize, Toy Story 5 is a 2026 Pixar feature that interrogates toys and technology without caricature. It premiered at the Dolby Theatre in June 2026 and released in US cinemas in June 2026. It is the first mainline entry rated PG. We explored three questions: the franchise's evolution under new leadership while maintaining core identity, the counterfactual of AI-assisted production, weighed against Pixar's artist-first stance, and the open horizon where future narratives might stage our changing relationship with devices. For those interested in further study, consider the impact of production tooling on story nuance, the ethics of AI in animation, and sociologically, how screen-mediated childhood reshapes attachment to analog play. Thank you for listening.
That was helpful to think through, actually. Thank you, Professor. And thanks to everyone for spending time with us today.